Good evening and welcome to Tinkering with Edkelar. After the recent flood of test gear, I got some more video related stuff for a change. The project turned out to be a tiny bit more complex than anticipated, so for this episode I have the first part. What is it? It's a rather early videotape recorder combined with a tiny monitor. And it is mobile, if you add 2 lead-acid batteries. Now, what's missing in this arrangement here is the actual tape recorder part, which is still on the bench in pieces. Many pieces. What does make this one so special? Well, it predates VHS or any other common video format. So, what does it record to? This here. Yes, good old 1/4 inch reel-to-reel tapes. So, let's have a peek on what's inside. Let's get started with the power supply. This brick serves both as a direct supply as well as a charger for the batteries in the main unit. I undid all 4 screws, but something is still stuck. Carefully increasing force. Aha, over here. Whoops, now I see what's wrong. There was a grounding tab on the cover held down by a 5th screw, the keyword being was. The overall design seems rather simple: a transformer, regulator PCB, and a few switches. The voltage selection socket is interesting. It integrates a fuse holder. What a weird design! Only the DC output socket is riveted and not bolted in place like the other mechanical connections, but every wire is soldered. Getting some of the switches out was painful. There's a lot of screw locking lacquer all over the place. A similar problem with the neon power indicator. Completely gunked up with a lacquer layer and somehow in the way of that last screw that holds the power switch in. That last screw needed a bit of extra persuasion. No way a regular screwdriver could have moved that. And now, the power switch. These main switches collect so much residue over time. Pretty sure it wouldn't be much of a problem, but a good in-depth cleanup every half century or so seems a good idea to me. and closing up the switch again. It works. The other way around. Humph! 50-50 chance, so of course it's wrong. The dot should be on the on position. I use new rivets for the switch, and it is done. I tried to desolder the old filter cap, but the tangle of wires just wouldn't move. So, nip and tuck. The sliding switch to select the output mode also gets a good inside-out cleaning. Sorry, got a bit of a focus issue here. My camera seems to prefer the background these days. Cleaning all the hardware, and I gave the case a good scrub too. The main filter cap is a bit smaller again, which means that the provided clamp doesn't fit anymore. So, OpenSCAD to the rescue again. Finding the correct screws again was a bit more complicated than I anticipated. This device is from an era when they still had different sizes for everything. And for the main switch, the screws absolutely must not be too long, or they might push the mounting bracket away from the front panel. Now to the supply PCB. It controls the charge and supply circuit, which is why there's two transformer outputs. This is about the time when I realized all the service manuals that I found were for slightly different revisions. You can see that the outside of the unit is identical, but the inside quite different. To get along with the mismatched manual, I decided to replace the capacitors one by one, so that I don't lose track of their values. New capacitors! Yay! I'm making up the order of operations as I go along, like usual. I keep an eye out for upcoming things and try to not put components in that will get in the way of anything else. The original power cord is still in good shape, just really dirty. I only strip it back a bit to compensate for some snipped off bits and to get out the mangled part where the strain relief was. Adding the wire tangle to the case again. I have to be a bit careful, there is also a free floating diode in there which might snap off. What a mess! The wires are in general just long enough and take the shortest path, so it's quite difficult to get them into place again. Soldering the wires into place again. And of course, one wire to the main filter cap was missing. And a stray grounding wire. New thermal paste. And after mounting the power transistors, setting the correct voltage, adding the fuse and giving it a try. First power on. Nothing went boom. Good. Checking the DC output. Also good. The final adjustment should be made under load, so I'll leave it at that for now. Attaching the grounding tab again. The original rivet was still there, I just punched on it with a center punch and that should be good. Now the case cover was a bit banged up, so I decided to paint it. Up next, the main unit, complete with carry case, slightly worn. Everything is quite dirty. Meh. The monitor is an optional unit that comes off. Oh, there's still some tape in here. I'll have to manually rewind that. Pushing rewind to release the brakes and go. The spools and the head cover come off with just a quick pull. Now, how to get in? Maybe from the underside? No, not that easy it seems. Let's try the top cover next. Oh, two pinch rollers. They seem to be still in the rubber state too, but at least one of them is in the way and prevents the cover from coming off. Aha! Sneaky! That cover plate is the screw that holds down the pinch roller. Oh, one word. YUCK! The drive belts are everywhere. After loosening a few more screws, the inside frame seems to almost come out. It's getting snagged on the bezel for the plugs though, which seems to be glued in place. And after a bit of wiggling, here we go. taking apart the case for the usual scrubbing. That one silver piece is aluminium and it's busted and bent. Seems to have had a meeting with the floor at some time. And the rubber idler wheels? Nope, nope and nope. 100% goo. I'll put the recorder unit aside for now. That one deserves its own video. Let's move to the monitor unit. Here, the silver piece is made of plastic. And the plastic parts have the mounting screws go through them, which are captive and now hold the two pieces hostage. That took some time to remove those little clips, but finally, a tiny little TV set. Removing the tube first, to keep it safe. Oh, how cute! It looks okay. The socket was glued in place, but needed to come out for cleaning. And now the rest of the screws. That one potentiometer is soldered to the speaker ground wire via a resistor. Talk about random connections. And a bit more desoldering later, here's the high voltage section. I am checking to see if there's any suspect parts in it, which there don't seem to be. Recapping! I didn't film all the PCBs since it took quite some time, so here's a few impressions. Now to the potentiometers. Again, I did open, clean and re-grease all 5. And here's a summary. Assembly time, starting with the speaker. The volume potentiometer also has the main on-off switch. Now to the other potentiometers. The socket is next. The power wires need resoldering. Up next in the puzzle, the front panel. Putting the cover back on the high voltage unit and soldering the shield to the PCB again. The grounding wire is held down by the speaker plate screw. Soldering the high voltage section to the main PCB connections again, I still think it's odd that most wires have plugs in here and some are soldered. It looks like a bit like an afterthought, like, oh, this circuit needs a ground too? Good thing I made lots of pictures. The wires go to completely unlabeled pins and I'm pretty sure they need to be correct. The CRT mounting bracket goes in next. Almost done! The power supply section in the rear along with the audio amplifier PCB are the last electrical parts. Last but not least, the CRT. It has a plastic cover attached, and since there doesn't seem to be any dust inside, I'll leave the sticky tape as it is. I might pull off some conductive paint from the CRT if I remove it. Whoops! The grounding and mounting bracket needs to go over it from the rear. Once again. And before I tie down the CRT, I'll need to tweak the yoke into alignment. Adjusting the image geometry. Not that I'd expect an ultra perfect image from this little set, but I'd like to get it as close as I can. And now the hold down strap. Almost done. Only the case with the mounting screws is left to go. Adding the clamshells of the case. Now this is a good time to close up this episode. The power supply and monitor sections are done and seem to work as good as expected. Coming up in the next part of the series, the environment to video signal converter device that came with the kit, colloquially known as the camera. Depending on how long that gets, the recorder might be in the same episode or in a third part. Not sure about that yet, so stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time! This brick serves both as a this through the teeth.